Welcome back, focused learners. So, we have an absolutely fascinating explainer prepared for you today. We're going to decode a subject that literally pushes the limits of biology and agriculture. We're talking about the extreme high-altitude wines of the South American Andes. If you want to understand exactly how physics, geology, and biology all converge to create some of the most elegant, highly sought-after sensory profiles in the entire wine world, well, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get into it.
Okay, we're starting our journey right at the summit. What we're talking about here isn't just some beautiful mountain landscape. It's an environment where traditional agriculture transforms into this intense, almost unbelievable exercise in biological resilience. Up here in the clouds, the grapevine isn't just growing, it is literally fighting to survive.
And that brings us to the central mystery I want to pose to you today. How does such a harsh, freezing, sun-drenched, and air-deprived environment create such perfect elegance in a glass? It seems totally counterintuitive, right? I mean, usually extreme stress yields really harsh results, but in the high Andes, nature completely flips the script. To truly appreciate this, we kind of need to recalibrate our entire understanding of altitude. Think about classic old-world vineyards in Europe, places like Burgundy or the Moselle Valley. Over there, an altitude of around 500 to 800 meters is largely considered the absolute upper limit for a grape to fully ripen while still keeping its freshness. But down in the South American Andes, that elevation is basically nothing. The extreme viticulture we're looking at today only starts at 2,000 meters, and it dares to climb well past 3,300 meters. We're talking about a radical vertical climb into totally unexplored terroirs. This extreme elevation subjects the vines to a brutal combination of environmental stressors. We can call this the trinity of extreme altitude. It consists of low atmospheric pressure, incredibly intense ultraviolet radiation, and drastically freezing nights. And these aren't just minor weather challenges. They force the vines into this intense physiological adaptation that actually alters the very DNA of the wine's flavor profile. The thin air up in the mountains creates a massive diurnal temperature range. We are talking about scorching days that provide the catalytic energy to ripen the sugars, followed immediately by freezing nights where the temperatures just plummet. This shift can be over 25 degrees Celsius in a single day. That massive drop in nighttime temperature acts as a natural metabolic break. It essentially hits pause on the vine's consumption of organic acids, perfectly preserving that crucial natural acidity that gives the wine its lifespan. Section 1. Decoding the sensory profile, site, and structure. Now, for any wine expert, understanding these essential sensory characteristics is absolutely crucial. And what's really interesting is how the intense mountain sun directly creates the color of the wine. Because the atmosphere is so thin up there, ultraviolet radiation is extraordinarily high. So to defend against severe UV damage and sunburn, the vine purposefully creates a super thick skin packed with polyphenols and anthocyanins. This protective sunscreen for the grape translates into what we call reactive chromatic intensity in your glass. It's this almost impenetrable, deep, inky purple color that is the unmistakable visual signature of extreme altitude. Beyond the sight, we have to talk about the structure, specifically a term sommeliers absolutely love, verticality. Remember those freezing mountain nights acting as a metabolic break we just talked about? Because the malic and tartaric acids are preserved so perfectly, the wine doesn't feel heavy or flat on your tongue. Instead, it possesses an acidity that drives vertically. It cuts precisely across the palate, elevating those fresh fruit flavors and creating this incredibly vibrant structural backbone. Section 2. The signature of minerality, soils of the Andes. Let's move from the climate up in the sky down into the dirt to see how geology literally becomes flavor. The Andean soils are incredibly poor, born from millennia of tectonic violence and erosion. They are skeletal, they're rocky, and they almost completely lack organic nutrients. This starvation diet forces the vine to limit its canopy and concentrate all of its energy into these tiny, flavor-packed berries. The direct sensory result of this mineral profile is a beautiful austerity. You get highly specific tasting notes like gunpowder, chalk, flint, and graphite. And when you observe that geological mosaic in action, it is full of alluvial deposits and calcium carbonate. Because these rocky soils drain water so rapidly, the vine lives in a state of constant, controlled water stress. When you drink the resulting wine, that stress actually manifests as a specific tactile sensation. It leaves this almost chalk dust texture on your palate, an intense mineral grip that cleanses the mouth and makes you immediately want to take another sip. Section 3.
tannins, and aging potential. The wait for elegance.
Okay, we absolutely cannot decode a high-altitude wine without discussing its immense aging potential, what winemakers call the potencial de guarda. As the experts will tell you, the reality of mountain vintages is massive structure. Remember those super thick skins grown to block the UV rays? Well, those skins don't just contain color. They are loaded with dense, massive tannins. When young, these wines can be a bit of a sensory assault, honestly. They demand a decade or more of bottle aging. During that time, those massive tannins polymerize, gradually softening and transforming all that raw mountain power into a really austere, polished elegance. Just let this number sink in for a second. 3,329. That is the altitude, in meters, of the incredible Uquia vineyard up in the Quebrada de Humahuaca in Jujuy, Argentina. That isn't just high. This represents the absolute biological limit of survival for grapevine. It is the peak of tannin concentration and structural intensity anywhere on the planet. Truly mind-blowing.
Section 4. The mountain tasting ritual, serving extreme altitude wines.
Now, if you're going to open a bottle born from such extreme biological stress, you can't just pop the cork and pour it. The crucial point here is that the low atmospheric pressure at these high altitudes literally compresses the aromatic molecules inside the bottle. They're in there, but they are completely dormant. Proper, prolonged decanting is absolutely mandatory to wake the wine up. You literally have to give it oxygen to unlock what the mountain has hidden away.
Through strategic decantation, oxygenation works its magic. It begins to polymerize those massive, tightly wound tannins, effectively turning that raw, gripping power into smooth silk on your palate. And as it breathes, it finally releases these complex, cool climate tertiary aromas. Think of things like wild mountain herbs, star anise, and clove.
But this explainer isn't just about the past or the present of wine. It's really about the future. Extreme altitude is the wine industry's ultimate climate resilient strategy. Because climbing the Andes by just 150 meters drops the average temperature by 1 degree Celsius, the mountains act as this natural air conditioner against global warming. These high-altitude vineyards aren't just some experimental trend. They are a vital, sustainable future for premium viticulture.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The next time you pour a glass of high-altitude South American Malbec or Torrontés, I really want you to ask yourself, are you just tasting a beverage, or are you tasting a biological marvel? You are experiencing the ultimate resilience of nature, a vine's triumph over freezing nights, scorching radiation, and rocky, unforgiving soils. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Andes. Keep learning, keep tasting, and I'll see you in the next explainer.